Okay, gang, so it's the moment of truth. My electrician, my electrician, was here this morning and went through how I had set everything up. Told me that it looked pretty good, and he was pretty impressed with the well house and the design of the plumbing. I wanted him to come out because I'm not an electrician, and there's some kind of tricky hookups with the wiring here. I did make a mistake inside the tank with the float switches. One of the float switches is a pump up switch. So when the float is up, it activates a pump. And one of the switches is a pump down switch. So when the float is down, it deactivates the pump or the motor, whatever it's connected to. And I had those reversed. So I had forgotten that I had two different float switches when I purchased them. In fact, they each serve a very specific function. So the well pump is the pump down switch. So when that float drops because the water is being depleted in the tank, it activates the well pump and then fills it back up. So anyway, took me a better part of the day to actually redo those floats because I had all the wire and conduit going into my pump house. Thankfully, I had not glued that conduit. I was smarter than that. So anyway, I'm all set up. I did all the wiring according to the diagram that my consultant gave me this morning. And now it is the moment of truth. I just switched on the power, the main power in the house, and I've got my breakers here for the pump and the jet pump. Here we go. You hear that buzzing? That is water flowing, baby. And no leaks so far, at least the plumbing coming out of the well. Boy, that sounds like a pretty good flow rate too. Let's take a look inside the tank. Oh yeah. That is what I'm talking about. So that water is pretty brown right now because the well's been stirred up, of course. Look at that. Okay, so that makes me happy. Again, no leaks in the plumbing coming out of the well. Everything looks good. Tank is filling up. It's got to get at least as high as lifting that bottom float switch in order to let this jet pump run. So I don't have just yet the ability to see how that plumbing is working with the pressure tank and so forth. We've got to get this filled up first. So we'll let that happen. Okay, to give you guys an idea of exactly how this system works, what happens is wellhead is there. Out of the wellhead, of course, the plumbing comes. This is the control box to the submersible well pump that's down the well. And that well pump is controlled by a float switch in the holding tank. So rather than feeding my pressure tank directly from the wellhead, which is how the old system worked, I'm actually filling a 2,500 gallon tank over here. So plumbing comes out of the side of the building and then flows through here, up the side of the tank, and then fills the tank. Once that tank is full, there's a float switch right about here that when that's floating on the water, it shuts off the well pump. And then as water is used in the system, either in the house or in the gardens, and this level in the tank depletes, once that float drops to a certain level, it kicks that well pump back on. The tank fills back up until that float is at the top to turn it off. So at the bottom of this 2,500 gallon tank is this valve here. And the water, this is a 1 3/4 inch pipe. So this is what's carrying the water back into the well house. Comes out through here, through this check valve, and then into the jet pump. And then what happens from there is the jet pump kicks it up and pushes it at a certain pressure between, what I'm looking for is between 30 and 50 PSI of pressure. So this jet pump will fill up this pressure tank back here that will maintain water at that pressure. As water gets depleted, the pressure goes down, and this gauge, of course, will show the reduced pressure, and that will kick the jet pump back on again to fill that tank back up. So it's a pretty simple system. And then this is the line that runs to the house and to the gardens. Anyway, that bottom float switch is just a backup in the event that the tank completely depletes, completely empties. It cuts off the ability for this pump to run. So I don't risk burning out this pump should the tank ever fully deplete. So that's it in a nutshell. Working great so far, at least pulling the water out of the well. Again, I won't be able to see how this works until we get to a certain level in the tank. All right, gang. Well, that was a fun project. Redoing the well house. Got a nice paint color on there. Looks real nifty. Lisa helped me paint that. And I'm going to do some gravel work around the front and side, clean this up, and this project will be done. I guess the next part associated with water is I do need to run a line up to the gardens to get water up there. So I'm going to use the rest of my polyethylene pipe. I have 300 feet of that, and I only used about 90. So I'll be using that to run up to the garden area, and that's going to involve some backhoe work. So looking forward to that. All right, gang, that's it. Thanks for watching. I forgot to mention, with regard to this plumbing here, I've got the 1 3/4 going out of the tank back in, the 1 inch coming out of the well going into the tank, and then this is my conduit for the electric for the float switches. What I'm going to do is put some stakes in the ground, fasten these pipes to those stakes, and then I'm going to build a wood enclosure, like a bench, that goes over all of this. So there's no risk of, well, one, I don't like the fact that these pipes move, or could move if somebody kicks them, and you don't risk, someone stepping on these or tripping over them. Also, when it comes time to weed eat out here, I don't want to risk hitting something with my weed eater. The other line that's still yet to come out of this tank is my iron filtration system. So that's a big filter that actually drops into the tank, and then a hose comes out of that, which is the air hose that plugs into the ozone making box here on the side of the building. The system is a triple O system, which is highly rated and supposed to be very effective at removing iron in particular, but also other particulates. So I'm excited about that system. I'm going to install that sometime next week. But I just wanted to point out that I am going to cover this plumbing as well.